Annual spending for Mother's Day amounts to about $40 billion. Annual spending for Father's Day about $25 billion. Why? I guess neckties are cheaper than flowers. I'm Larry Fedoruk, and this is Later That Same Life. Each week on this podcast, a different topic, discussion, or story from our lives.
Season 13, Chapter 5,
Father's Day.
A decent bouquet of flowers will run you around $60. You can pick up a nice necktie for around $30, even one with flowers on it. Mothers get taken out to brunch on their day. On their day, fathers barbecue in the backyard. Eating at home is always cheaper than going out for a meal. I realize I'm stereotyping moms and dads into some 1960s scenario, but stereotypes are there for a reason. Plus, it is not a new observation that Mom's Day hype, including spending, has always outpaced Father's Day. Why is that? They both started around the same time, at least in North America. Mother's Day in 1908, Father's Day in 1910. The person credited with conceiving of and advocating for Father's Day apparently got the idea while sitting in church listening to a sermon about Mother's Day. In 1909, Sonora Smart Dodd of Spokane, Washington, wanted to honor her father, who raised her and her 5 siblings after their mother died in childbirth. Local religious leaders supported her idea, and the first Father's Day was June 19, 1910. In 1966, U.S. President Lyndon Johnson issued a proclamation declaring it an official observance. It wasn't until 1972 that Richard Nixon signed legislation declaring Father's Day the 3rd Sunday of June and a national holiday. Good old Dickie, huh? He signed that legislation in late April. Therefore, June 18, 1972, was the first U.S. Father's Day as a national holiday, thanks to Dick Nixon. Richard M. Nixon, father of 2, celebrated that Dad's Day June 18, 1972. June 17, 1972, burglars were breaking into the Democratic headquarters at the Watergate Hotel. Happy Father's Day, Dad. Hey, you seem a little off today. Is something on your mind? Well, thanks, kids. I'll be right with you. I gotta take this call. It's not a national holiday in Canada, although, it's a Sunday. I often wondered why Father's Day in the United States is not a long weekend. A lot of times when a national holiday falls on a Sunday, you get the Monday. I guess maybe they wrote that in the original legislation. Father's Day is not a long weekend. I've wondered, too, about the holiday pay in the U.S. If you are working on Father's Day, a federal holiday, do you get holiday pay? Well, no. I found this out because only federal employees get holiday pay, and most of them don't work on Sundays. In America, there is no law requiring private companies to offer holiday pay, a premium salary if you're working a holiday. It's up to the company. Most of them don't do it. Again, Father's Day, not a holiday in Canada. In Europe, Father's Day is March 19th, originally a religious holiday known as St. Joseph's Day, and it morphed into a more general Father's Day observance. Joseph, of course, the earth father of Jesus Christ. Joseph was like the Jonathan Kent to God's Jor-El. Joseph and Mary never had any other kids, yet in Europe, Joseph was the inspiration for Father's Day. Jesus was an only child of another father. Although as a kid, I do remember my dad often referring to a Jesus H. Christ. Maybe that was a cousin. It's all very curious. For example, I was raised Catholic. In that church, a regular father outranks a mother superior. I know. How does that make sense? Well, yes, mother is superior, but father somehow more superior. Anyway, back to the question. Why is there more hype around Mom's Day than Dad's Day? It's not because one was around a lot longer than the other. But I do think part of it is that old traditions die hard. Here's what I mean. Things have changed, I get it. But for decades, it was mom who was there when you got home. And you had to wait till your father got home. Wait till your father gets home. So for the most part, for decades, mom was the go-to parent. She was the on-site supervisor. Dad was more like the consultant in from out of town who you saw occasionally, and he was telling you where you'd gone wrong and how to fix it. As that was the dynamic of the family unit, it would be only logical that on their special days, we would want to do something for mom and with dad. See what I mean? Doing something for requires more effort and generally more spending than doing something with. And let's face it, in traditional heterosexual family setups, mom had a 9-month head start in forming a special bond with the kid. Dad was integral, and perhaps even later dedicated and involved. But mom put in the early overtime. Maybe we're somehow genetically hardwired to want to do more for mom. Which brings me to same-sex marriage. And not only that, but married with children. Have you noticed, by the way, that with all the effort we put into gender-neutral terms, which I agree with, firefighter, not fireman, chair, not chairman, police officer, tip your server, plus now add to that how we have to tiptoe around proper pronouns, he, they, I don't know, all that. Yet we accept pretty openly the gender-defining terms of mother, father, husband, wife. 2 men get married, each has a husband. 2 women, each will say, my wife. And they say my wife, not like guys who say the wife. I know some will just say partner, but anybody can have a partner. This is about commitment. Husband, wife. I now pronounce you husband and husband. I guess it saves arguing about, who gets to be the husband or who gets to be the wife, which may be based in outdated stereotypes and gender roles. You want to be the wife. You told me when we got married I could be the wife. There'd be none of that. 2 men, 2 husbands, 2 women, 2 wives. Then they have kids. Kids have 2 dads or 2 moms. I know what you're thinking, the poor kids, right? Now they got to come up with 2 gifts for Father's Day. They have to glue twice the amount of macaroni on 2 tin cans for 2 pen holders. Yes, but with 2 dads, they didn't have to buy any gifts on Mother's Day. So overall, I think it's a net break even. Just a quick aside. We've managed to switch to mostly gender-neutral terms. There's still one out there, at least one, that is male-based. We grandfather in a new policy. We don't grandmother it in for some reason, even though, as I remember, it was Grandma who made all the rules. We grandfather in new rules, so that people who entered under the old rules can still live with them, but the new people have to live with the new policy. Makes sense, I guess, because, grandfathers generally, they hate change. Another possible theory as to why Mother's Day seems to be the biggest deal is timing. The calendar. Mother's Day is 2nd Sunday in May. Weather's just getting nice, we want to get out, we want to do stuff. By the 3rd Sunday of June, school is almost over, your mind is on summer vacation, etc., etc. I'll bet if you switched them around, Dad's Day in May, Mom's in June, it would change. Maybe not a complete reversal, but Dad might be getting more brunches and better neckties. Maybe they should switch it year to year, like they do in Canadian tennis. The men play in Montreal, the women in Toronto, and then next year it's the opposite. Or every few years, like the Olympics. We should try that. Why don't we try things? I realized recently that I have been alive longer without a father than I have with a father. That scale actually tipped sometime in 2010. But I never thought about it in those terms till now. Dad's birthday was back in May, and my brother called to say that, you realize Dad would have turned 100 today? I had not, but ever since, I've been looking at dates and doing emotional math. My dad did get to meet my daughter, but died 4 months before my son was born. A similar story is told in the song The Living Years by Mike and the Mechanics. I play it loud, I play it clear, every year around this time, usually about 10 times in a row. And I wish I would have told him in The Living Years. By the way, I'd love to play a snippet of the song here, but if I do that, the YouTube version of this podcast will likely be blocked. So just hum it to yourself for a little bit. Plus, my father passed just a couple of days before Father's Day. So every year there's that anniversary right around the same time as the observance. We lived many miles apart at the time. I was going to call him on the Sunday. Instead, my mom called on the Thursday. It was unexpected. When I did my podcast, I Was 8, Childhood Stories, wherever you get your podcasts, a friend reached out and said the most lovely thing. She said she was enjoying my love letter to my childhood, which it was. But slowly I realized that podcast was a love letter to my father. I believe that our time on earth is it. When we're done, we're done. But yet, way in the back of my mind, I secretly hope he somehow heard that love letter. How do I think both of these things at the same time? Earlier on, I did say that the tendency was to do stuff for Mom and with Dad. Not a hard and fast rule, obviously. But then I remembered I grew up in a time when Father's Day was a day when Dad would be exempt from family. Instead of having to spend time with the kids, Dad got a free pass to go out and do something on his own, golfing, fishing, hunting, I don't know, some manly thing. Not a bad idea, really. I mean, you're a parent 24/7. Shouldn't Mother's Day and Father's Day be a day off? Of course, those days, too, were the days of the aloof father figure, where he brought home the bacon and Mom fried it up in the pan. But thankfully, over the years, we've reeled Dad in a little closer to the family. Dad, Mom, kids, the family unit. Times have changed, and also they have not. Every year when I was on the radio, those 2 days, we'd always ask for people's favorite TV moms and TV dads. People still do this on social. TV dads. Who would be the best? Actually, Progressive Insurance did a series of television commercials where they cut to a TV dad who's just there ready to offer advice.
Kids are so expensive, Dad. Now Katie needs braces.
Maybe try switching your car insurance to Progressive. You can save hundreds.
I don't know, Dad.
Maybe try switching your car insurance to Progressive. You could save hundreds.
It's a great idea, TV Dad.
But I said the exact same thing.
Someday when you're a father, you'll understand.
I'm his father.
It's not a competition. Listen to your TV Dad. Drivers who switch and save with Progressive save nearly...
TV dads. Who would be the best? Hard to say. Except with certainty, I can tell you that Bill Cosby is no longer in the running. You got your classics, Ward Cleaver, Ben Cartwright, Andy of Mayberry, Mike Brady. By the 70s, we had Howard Cunningham, Pa Ingalls, right on the prairie there in the little house. But then you also had Archie Bunker and Fred Sanford. Not exactly fathers of the year. Later in the 80s, we had My Two Dads. But they weren't gay. Don't say gay, can't say gay. These were two macho guys just sharing the upbringing of a child. And that was long before Two and a Half Men. The 80s also brought us Full House. That was a house full of dads. Although Bob Saget, Danny Tanner, was the official TV dad there. Who else? Stephen Keaton, Dan Connor. That's Family Ties and Roseanne, so you don't have to look that up. In 1987, we met TV dad Al Bundy. And by 1989, Homer Simpson, breaking the mold on the typical TV dad. By the 90s, we had Family Matters, Fresh Prince, Home Improvement. Those were great TV dads. I mean, Frasier was a TV dad technically, but it only came up occasionally. Hands down TV dad of the 90s. The award goes to Frank Costanza.
George, we've had it with you. Understand, we love you like a son. But even parents have limits.
The breakup? the firings, and every Sunday with the calls.
What my wife is trying to say is this is supposed to be our time.
I'm not following.
I'm sorry, George, we're cutting you loose. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to make love to your mother.
I didn't say he was best. I just said award-winning. TV dads, who did I leave out? Well, that 70s show, Arrested Development, Malcolm in the Middle, which reminds me, Walter White was a TV dad. He bought his son a car, remember? You had your Different Strokes, Jeffersons, 8 is Enough, Growing Pains, Modern Family, The Family Guy. Well, you can see the long tradition of TV dads has been played every which way. I thought Elliot Gould as Ross's dad on Friends was brilliant casting. About as brilliant as Terry Garr playing Phoebe's mom and Kathleen Turner as Chandler's trans dad. I'm always amazed at the TV people who are dads in real life. You never think of them as dads. Letterman, Seinfeld, for example. They celebrate Father's Day with grown kids who are coming home from college. I know me and my kids got older, but I somehow don't realize they do too. Before leaving TV altogether, remember The Duggars? Reality TV show, 19 kids and counting. 19 kids, man. On Mother's and Father's Day, I'll bet their local Walmart adds extra inventory just for them. Father's Day, we celebrate fathers, and father figures. Figure we only use with father. If in your life you were close to another adult female, you would say she was like a mother to me. You would not call her a mother figure. I mean, it's not alliterative, and I guess it sounds too much like a swear. You mother figure. I love you. Have you ever noticed, too, that we associate our origins with our fatherland and our mother country? Fatherland is more of a nationalistic concept. The land of our forefathers. It would have been the fathers that fought for and settled the land. Mother country tends to refer more to a colonial power or an ethnic origin. Do you celebrate Mother's Day in the fatherland? Of course, and Father's Day in my mother country. So it continues. Mother's Day overhyped. Dad's Day underhyped. Is it the old traditions? Is it the time of year? Is it my for versus with concept? I really think it's mostly that one. Hey, remember as a kid, you'd always go, how come there's a Mother's Day and there's a Father's Day? When is it going to be Kids' Day? And every parent somehow knew to say, repeat it with me now, every day is Kids' Day, which it was. Father's Day, and Mother's Day too, good times to realize how much we've become our parents, sometimes despite our best efforts, and sometimes a good thing. The U.S. Open Golf is always on Father's Day weekend. Father's Day is always close to Paul McCartney's birthday. It's right around the time my own dad passed, and very close to the anniversary of the Watergate break-in. There's also Juneteenth. That's right around Father's Day. Happy Father's Day, Dad, but I got another party to go to. You're welcome to come along. Well, there's just a lot to celebrate, isn't there? A lot to observe. Poor Paul McCartney probably only gets one party, one brunch, one necktie. Hey, Dad, it's the combination of your birthday and Father's Day. Yeah. Shit my dad says, dad bod, dad jokes. All part of how we perceive our dads. Hey, why don't I end with one of my dad's favorite jokes? Hated it as a kid. Hey, Mom, Dad's telling that joke again. Make him stop. Love it as an adult. Remember Mark Twain? When I was a boy of 14, I thought my father was so ignorant I could barely stand to have the old man around. But when I got to 21, I was astonished by how much the old man had learned in 7 years. So for me, it's kind of that with this joke. Anyway, the joke. Two guys meet in the desert. One is carrying an umbrella, the other one is carrying a car door. The guy with the car door says, look at you, what an idiot. You're carrying an umbrella in the desert. It never rains in the desert. The guy says, oh yeah, if it gets too hot, I just open up the umbrella and I have shade. You're the idiot for carrying the car door. And the guy says, oh yeah, if it gets too hot, I just roll down the window. That joke just keeps on getting funnier and funnier every Father's Day. Still love that. Thanks, Dad. It's good to laugh.
Later That Same Life is written, voiced, and produced by Larry Fedoruk. LarryFedoruk37@gmail.com. Subscribe to Larry's podcast YouTube channel. Get automatic notifications with each new episode.